Hey everybody, I'd like to welcome you all to this CDCon talk. I'm going to be your speaker today, Adam Roberts, and we'll be talking about how the Tekton community is really driving its growth and adoption. So about the speaker, I joined IBM in 2013 out of university. I'm currently working on a bit of a secret project at IBM Hersley, and I've worked as a developer on all of those things before in the past. Lots of them are open source things as well, like Apache Spark and Node.js, adopt OpenJDK, and most recently, most relevantly, I worked on the Tekton Dashboard and web extension. So lots of Go code, lots of Tekton code written in Go, lots of JavaScript and React, and I've got a decent background in open source projects in general. So you can find me on GitHub usually, but also on LinkedIn as well. That's really what I do in my day job. What I do outside of that day job is I'm an ambassador for Continuous Delivery Foundation, and that means doing things like reaching out to folks, getting them to submit things like talks, working with people on talks, maybe doing meetups eventually, things like making sure Tekton itself is developing in accordance with our guidelines and bringing the community into the foundation and the opposite way around so that we can make sure the project is growing and really succeeding, I guess. I'm also on the subcommittee for outreach, and I'm a co-creator for Twitch.tv CD Foundation with two IBM colleagues, Duan and JJ, and we basically stream every so often on Tuesdays usually for Tekton, Jenkins X, and anything that's really CDF related. Outside of that, so away from screen completely now, I'm a keen powerlifter. I'm into the Green Bay Packers, they're my football team, and a lot of music production. So either making trance in Ableton or with my guitars, making some metal music and some cool riffs. That's really me in a very small nutshell. Who do I think you are then? So I think this talk is really for people that have heard of Tekton and want to know what we're up to, so how the community is set up and functions on a day-to-day basis, and someone that may want to make their own community and look for an awesome standard. So maybe it's a new open source project, you have to figure out how to grow that project and really develop it. Or maybe you just want to contribute to Tekton for the very first time. You want to know what it's like, where the project repositories all sit, if we have meetings, if we're on Slack, that kind of thing may be quite useful for you. I think the main claims I'm making are threefold. One is that Tekton is growing, two is that it's being adopted at a greater rate, and the community itself is part of that growth. I think if you're going to go away from this knowing a few things, it's basically this slide. How our community works, what are the evidences for that growth and adoption, some education so you can join our community and really get stuck in. Maybe it's through your first pull request, or you want to figure out where our meetings are held. And if you're watching this as part of CDCon, you can ask me anything you'd like in the Q&A section. I'm going to try and make this 20 minutes in one take and leave 10 minutes at the end for your questions. So Tekton growth. I think the main indicators are those things basically. So do you get more people doing more pull requests, more contributors, more contributions? Do you have releases that have got new features in them on a consistent basis? So is the project itself getting better, becoming more stable? And as a community, are we seeing more people using us? So not just people actually, it's other projects using us. That may be in the adoption section, but I think as Tekton gets more popular, it would lead to it being adopted more. And by having a strong community, I think it helps with that on two fronts. People get confidence and they know if they want to change something or add an enhancement, it'll be welcomed. So contributors increasing. What's a nice way to figure that out? Well, if I go to this link here, I'm going to go to this tab actually, I already have it loaded up. There's a Grafana dashboard for new contributors to Tekton. And you can see here we had quite a few in September. I'm recording this for 24th of September. And you can see, for September we've been quite good. And this is across all of Tekton. So not just the pipeline component that you install, maybe it's part of the CLI or the dashboard or the website or the community or the friends repository. There's plenty of places you can get involved in that's covered by this table here. So I think that's quite good. We're getting new folks. So I think we'll take that box off. How about this? New releases of new features. So remember I just mentioned there are various different repositories that are part of Tekton. If I go to pipeline releases, hopefully we're going to see quite a few. We can see here Dolores Rex, 9 days ago, a fix, and a bug report from the community. And you can see plenty of patch releases going on. And for the major release, 16.0, you can see lots of things going on here, lots of new features and fixes, and most importantly for this talk, contributors. So plenty of people, nearly 24 there I would say, are pitching in and basically adding what they think would benefit the project, be it fixes, enhancements, you name it. Really neat to see. So I think yes, we're getting new releases. I can go to any of these places and see the same kind of story. It's often a few people doing, let's say, the bug fix. So here's triggers, and then quite a few more people do the actual big milestone releases, the minor releases in our case. So 0.7 or 0.8, for example. So what's next? Github Insights. That's a handy way to figure out what the contribution pattern looks like over a period of time. So if I go to, let's go back to, let's say, pipeline. If I go to this Insights button here, I can see contributions over time. And you can see here is quite a nice, little graph. It doesn't go up and then drop and then nobody maintains it ever again. It's quite consistent, even over summer months. We're still getting quite a few folks, so that's quite good to see. And we can scroll down, and there's no particular area where nobody pitches in. It doesn't go inactive for a while, and people have got let's say 8 or 9 commits, which is really good. And quite a few of these are substantial things. It's like let's say it's support for a new platform or bug fix. So this graph, in my mind, is quite a good indicator of how we're doing in Tekton. We then have the next section of this presentation, which is all about adoption. So more products out there using Tekton, or more internal teams, from my perspective at least, using Tekton, or more dependent projects. So you'll burn something completely new and you think, you know what, it's really handy to use Tekton. I'm going to show you a few of those next. So dependent open source projects. I think of a few immediately. One is Jenkins X, 2 is Cabanero, 3 is the OpenShift pipelines by Red Hat, and 4 is an extension, I think, for Kubeflow, where you can basically write your Kubeflow pipelines using Tekton under the covers. So those are the ones that I personally know about. If you look at some of these, they are quite popular. Jenkins X, for example. If I go to their main website, it looks quite slick, quite useful. But how about if I go to Jenkins X on GitHub? I want to see how many people have been starring this thing. That's quite a good usage indicator in my view. You're not going to get many stars otherwise if it's not very good. So if I go to Jenkins X/JX, if I move myself a little bit out of the way, you can see here we have almost 3.7k stars, and you can then go on to see all the releases. You've got all these releases. I think that's because whenever there's a new commit that's merged, a new release would also happen. So it's real continuous integration and delivery going on, because things are basically being added, they're being tested, they're being built, they're being pushed, and you go straight into, if you like, production, which is the GitHub release, straight away after it's passed all those quality checks. So Jenkins X, really big user of Tekton. I can prove that if I were to do a search, let's say, on Tekton up here, you can see lots of imports from both Go, for YAML, and there's plenty of it. So definitely a big user of Tekton. I encourage you to check out the other ones for yourself, and just if there's anything else you'd like to add, maybe to the friends repository, and we'll mention this later, please do a pull request and let us know how you're using Tekton. More examples then. So I actually did a question under the Tekton Slack saying, hello, would anybody like to share their adoption examples? And I had a few responses. I had Eddie Charlie, his name I think Charles, and he's now a dashboard maintainer for Tekton at ageconomy.com. Bits of info mentioning 30 plus services using Tekton, including for production usage as well. And the IBM Cloud is a continuous delivery offering, all based on Tekton. Our own development team starting to use Tekton as well in production. So this is where we're writing our code in pull requests. It's being built, pushed, let's say deployed somewhere, and maybe it's to Artifactory for now. And we can all start to get those images that have been built with Tekton and try them ourselves. And if you want to submit your own case studies and experiences, please do so. So cde.foundation has a link at the top for submitting blog posts and case studies and all sorts, webinars, podcast entries, and you can really start to share what you're doing with Tekton with the wider community this way. And again, that friends repository we'll mention soon as well. So here's Eddie Charlie, aka Charles, and he's mentioned here that they use Tekton pipelines and Tekton Dashboard hosting their in-house CI/CD platform. They run jobs on every single pull request and commit. It's very effective, and what I'd like to draw your attention to is something that he mentions at the end. He managed to break a few things a few times, but the community was always there to help fix things. And that's because, we're very welcoming to people experimenting and trying new things. There's always somebody on Slack who's going to say, yeah, I'd love to help out, here's what you need to try, and we welcome those contributions. So it was a nice read for you to do there. Basically, you had a lot of guidance from the project owners and maintainers, and anything that you would like to have been added was basically welcome with open arms. It's not a case of where we say, oh, we don't want that. It's, yeah, this looks quite handy, let's get this in there. And then the dashboard was used in their offering. So when they're doing their pull requests, you can use the dashboard and see what's going on. Next example, bits of info. So they've mentioned in their blog post, which you can all check out yourself in more detail, they mentioned using Tekton for more than 30 different applications from various contexts, including development, QA, and production. And they mentioned there, they're very thankful for the Tekton folks making a great platform we can all build upon. And you can see my response there. You can see my hypothesis about the community being important. They go on to say, absolutely, it tends to be the biggest indicator of success, the community and responsiveness, and the issues they brought up were pretty quickly addressed. So always good to hear. The next example is a little bit more of a larger scale, at least in my view. So I think in my mind, the Charles one was a little bit small, maybe just for one product. Then we had the bits of info one, maybe 30 applications. And now this is a very large IBM product, but there are a lot of people that I know working on this, potentially being used by lots of folks in production as well. So you may have one company using the ageconomy.com, but you may have various companies using this offering, if you like. Simon Kagi is someone I've worked with for many months, even a year or so, and basically we worked on the Tekton Dashboard together at the very start, and he goes on to say how the continuous delivery offering includes pipelines as service tooling, all based on Tekton. The decision was made to shift to Tekton after considering various other native offerings, and a big part of that was the project's commercially diverse community and strong technical leadership. Its move to open governance at the CD Foundation was key to ensure the project remained open, with no one company running the show. We feel Tekton has a unique place in the industry with its close ties to the Kubernetes and Knative communities and aligns well with our future. So, mentioned all of that, and Simon himself is a known contributor to Tekton. You can see pull requests by him. He's often on their weekly meetings, giving updates, and really trying to get engaged with the community so we can make sure Tekton itself is as good as it can be for our customers. Product development teams. So at the start I mentioned using Tekton to basically build and push our own code for our own development projects. This is very much a thing that we're starting to use Tekton more and more at IBM, that you can show me all the builds for an entire project in terms of pull requests, pushes, merges, and get the status of them. So this dashboard is a little bit different from the community one in that it's got the commercial side of things added. So the private worker nodes, the trigger definitions, the environment properties. There's all sorts of little things will be added just to make it a bit more suitable for our own needs. And this is all hosted on the IBM cloud as well. So we're using Tekton in production, and again, because of the community being so good, helpful and responsive, it gives us confidence to do that. So our community itself, how do we function? I'm going to take you through GitHub, Slack, the weekly events, and by the way, there are lots of cats in Tekton. If you were to do a pull request and you were to do /meow on that pull request, and then a noun or a verb, like maybe a /meow hats, you would see a picture of a cat with a hat on, ideally, from the cat API. So we're really big on cats. So Slack, this is where our Slack channel lives, and it's our main source of Q&A in the community. We have dev channels and user channels for project areas. So if you're a developer, there's pipeline dev. If you're just a user, you can just use pipeline. And there are active folks in various areas, both the project areas and across the world, that are regularly available. So, let's say you're in India or North America or Europe, there's quite a good chance someone's awake for your project area and they can help you out within minutes. What we also have is a GitHub setup that basically encourages you to tell us what you're doing with Tekton. We've got a community repository. This is both for contributors and watchers of what we're up to. So if you want to figure out, how to join our meetings or Slack, that's the place for you. The friends place as well. The friends repository is where you can tell us if you're using Tekton. You can tell us what you're using it for, how you're using it, if it's in production or not, you're evaluating it, or you just want to share a success story. And at the same time, as you'd expect, the actual project repositories themselves for all the main coders, as well as the docs. Weekly events. We have many of these, so for every single project in Tekton, of which there are many, dashboards, CLI, triggers, website, pipeline, there are basically weekly meetings that go through what's going on in that project. Is it changing? What's been changed? What's going to break things in the future? There's a set agenda. There's room for playbacks and cool demonstrations at the end. They are all recorded, and there are very elaborative notes for each of them, so you can see people's thoughts and musings, and you can basically go back over a year and figure out what's been going on for each project since, the beginning of time for Tekton. YouTube and Twitch. So what we like to do is stream Tekton every few weeks at that link there, as well as Jenkins X recently. There's a foundation channel on YouTube as well. And there's lots of talks already by the community and various companies, so Red Hat, IBM, Google and CloudBees, but I encourage you to submit your own. So if you're using Tekton, do a cool video on it, let us know what you're up to. And then the concluding thoughts on this, I've told you how active it is, but I think the main selling points are these. Our Tekton community is giving users and developers that confidence. They know if they find a bug, they can raise it. No one will say, oh, it's a terrible issue. It will get responded to quickly. There'll be a new release pretty quickly, and people get the confidence in that someone is available to help out. People are encouraged to try new things and experiment. In fact, we've got our own experimental repository on Tekton where you can basically just put your ideas in, and eventually, if it's quite popular and useful, that can graduate to being a real thing that's maintained by everybody else. Active people in various geographies plays a massive role in this. This is what I mentioned earlier. You could be in India, let's say, and you want to work on triggers. Chances are, if you say something on Slack, someone will respond to you quite quickly. And then we can have a good discussion about making an issue, helping you out, and going from there. The regular events as well are really useful. As you might step back from doing a pure development role in something that's more architectural, you may want to still be on those meetings to see what's going on, and that's very handy. So we have the community repository which tells you when those working group meetings are, how you can join them, and what's been going on in the past. Slack, as well as these meetings, is a great way for us to communicate with people. Action suggestions. I would like you, personally, to join our Tekton and CDF communities. Add yourself as a friend via the Tekton CD Friends repository. Submit your issues. If it's a new feature, if it's a bug, let us know and try Tekton out for yourself. Get involved on Slack, say hello, join the working groups, give us a wave, say hello. And last year there was a really cool blog post on Tekton. It was 2019 Tekton in Focus. And it had a lot of people from various companies pitching in, saying here's what Tekton's up to and what's going on in the future. If there's a 2020 post, that would be great. And I'd love for you as a community to be involved in that. So please join in either through Slack, Tekton or CDF Slack, maybe through GitHub, anything you like, and please let us know what you're up to. So this concludes the main portion of this talk. As I've said, there should be plenty of time for Q&A at the end of this, so please ask me anything you'd like. I'd love to stick around and answer your questions. As I mentioned earlier, you can find me on LinkedIn as well at this place here. And yeah, thank you all for this talk, and please enjoy the rest of the conference. Have a great day, everybody. Bye for now.